Alright, today I am going to be doing the throttle stop mod on this Coleman BT200X. It's the same for pretty much anything with these little engines, whether it be the Coleman mini bikes or a different brand mini bike or a go-kart, or if you have the Predator 212, it's all the same procedure. This might be slightly different locations and one or two things might be in the way. But anyways, you have a throttle stop on these engines. This one's down here. You see when I pull the throttle, so that little screw there that hits that plate that sticks up, that stops you from going full throttle. So basically what you do is you remove that so that you can actually go full throttle. So that's basically how they all work. Like I said, depending on which one you got, what brand, whether it's a Predator 212, it might be slightly different. Some of them have a little spring on that screw. This one does not. These newer Colemans, at least, they've started tack welding them in place, so you either have to cut it off or you can just bend it up out of the way. Now, obviously here the air filter here is in the way, so we're going to have to remove that to get down there to that. But it's the same basic concept on any of them. But as far as doing the Coleman here with the 200, I got to get this air filter out of the way so I can get to that. Generally speaking, these do about 19-20 miles an hour out of the box. That may depend on rider weight. And then when you do this modification, it'll let you go full throttle, so it should in theory accelerate a little faster. And then also typically you pick up a few more miles per hour, generally on around 25-26 miles per hour. Again, that may depend on rider weight, so your results may vary. So I'm going to see if I can download some sort of GPS speed app. There's a bunch of them. I'm going to do that real quick and take a run down the road and see if see what my baseline is, whatever my top speed is, and then I'll go back and I'll do it again after we remove the throttle screw. By the way, make sure you check out the Mustang. Alright, so I'm going to start by taking this cover off. I'm not sure if that's enough, but we'll start there. So you just unscrew that. Should pop off. Give it a little wiggle. Untighten the air filter. Don't lose it. There we go. Alright, and yep, it's still in the way, so I think it's just these two bolts, so I probably didn't even need to take that off. Find out here in a second. Alright, so at least on this bike, it is a 10mm here for these mounting bolts. And be careful not to catch your choke on there and break that off. Actually, it might be better to put it somewhere in the middle. Well, you got your fuel right here too. Ah, my carb's coming off. So those, yeah, you got to finesse those so it'll come off. And then that is the mounting bolts for your carburetor, apparently, because my whole carburetor was detaching from the engine. Okay, so now that you see this whole carburetors, yeah, it wanted to come out with that, so be careful with that. So now I can access this, so now you guys can see what I'm talking about here with your throttle stop. Like I said, the older ones aren't tack welded in place. These ones supposedly are, although currently I'm not seeing a tack weld. Let's see if I can back this out. But if they have a tack weld, then you have to cut them off. Or if you want, you can just grab this with some channel locks or something and bend it out of the way. But it's going to be a much more professional and clean look if you just cut it off there. But I don't see a tack weld unless it's on the bottom. I'm going to see if I can just back mine out. Alright, so I'm retarded. The tack weld's right there on the head of the screw. So you can either try to get that with a Dremel with a cutting wheel, and maybe you can free it up and break it loose with a screwdriver. or you can just cut the backside off the screw, which is probably what I'm going to do. And if you bend it, you want to remove this arm first, because obviously it's going to pinch this down, and this little lever here has to do with holding the right tension on that. So if you bend it, you're going to want to take this off and take this plate off, then bend it, and then put the plate back on. But like I said, I think it's a little more professional and tidy to just cut the backside off, so I think that's what I'm going to do. Also, if you do the bend method and you take that arm off, you got to get this set just right. You want it as tight as you can when you put it back on, to where the throttle doesn't stick. If you get it too tight, it won't return back. It'll just get stuck on you, which is very bad. So if you do that, make sure you want to get it as tight as you can without it sticking. That way the screw doesn't rattle off, which of course you could put some Loctite on there, but I'm going to cut the backside of the screw off, so what I'm going to do. Alright, so my cutting reel I got on here right now is real tiny, so obviously you want to be careful not to cut your throttle cable there, or spring, or this plate or whatever, so I'm just going to do it as is. And obviously you should be wearing safety glasses when you do this. Now I don't know that there's going to be a little nub left on the back side. I'm just going to cut, well I can't, there we go, right there to leave that thread should I ever want to thread a screw back in there. That's what I'm going to do for now. I may eventually move this arm and bend it back out of the way, that way that nub's not even touching, but I want to cut it off right here and see what we got first. Alright, so there's a piece of cut off, so you can see just that little nub's left, and that's all you need to do because that's as far as it travels. Unless it's because, you know, that spring's fully compressed there, so you're going to want that spring so it returns. I know some people sometimes take them off, but then you fight with it returning correctly and having to add different springs and whatnot. So it may go a smidge more if you take that spring off, but I'm not going to do that. So that's all the travel I need. So now I'll try it out. I'll see if it goes any faster, which I'm sure we'll get a couple more miles per hour. I'm also curious if it takes off faster though, so I'll report back on that as well. So one other thing here, very important, you may notice this little hose sticking off the back, and that goes in your valve cover right there. So very important, make sure you get that back in there when you slide this over. And again, you're going to have to work these to get them to fit through there. Alright, make sure you snug these down a decent amount, not too tight, you don't want to strip them out, not too loose, they'll rattle off. If I can find a torque spec on it, I'll post that right now. Otherwise, I'm going to say you want to go with about 10 foot-pounds of torque. 10 to 12 foot-pounds is what I did. You want to use a 1/4 inch drive torque wrench for that to get an accurate read. The little hose loops over this. Make sure you shove it in there all the way without popping it off here. So we got everything back on, snugged down, and I should be ready to go. So let's see what it does now. Alright, so it would hit 25 and then tap the governor, which I'm going to remove next on these, and cut me back to about 23 there. So it seems to take off a smidge faster. You can feel it pull a little stronger, especially as it's getting going in the mid-range. Maybe a hair more at initial takeoff, but it definitely feels a little stronger. Now I'm 220, so if you have somebody on there that was lighter, it'd probably be more noticeable, but there is a little more pickup off the line. It's just not super noticeable because I'm 220. Again, the top speeds might be higher and such if somebody lighter was on there, but I'm not completely convinced of that because I'm hitting the governor now. So next step is governor. If you want to see the other bikes, I got two others, the CT200U and the the CT200U EX. We'll be doing modifications to all of those. But next up is going to be governor removal, and we'll probably go over a different methods of doing that because there's more than one way you can do it. Anyways, if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button for me. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.